Hello everyone, Rachel Meanahan here, and welcome to the Gemini Way podcast. I have travelled over to Gemini Accident Repair Centre's head office in Kidderminster to meet with Dave Sargeant, the Managing Director of Gemini Accident Repair Centres and the current Chairman of AutoRaise Charity. AutoRaise are the apprentice charity that promote a number of technical apprenticeships into the accident repair industry. Dave is known for champion apprenticeships, and there's a very good reason why. Dave has a remarkable CV, having been an apprentice himself, working his way up to the position he's in today as Managing Director of Gemini Accident Repair Centres. Dave is here with me today to promote and inspire the younger generation and show what life is like after apprenticeships and other opportunities that are available. You can expect to find out more on Dave's life and his career, and in support of World Mental Health Day, how Dave finds his own focus and motivation. You will get to hear about the early days of Gemini Accident Repair Centres. A big thank you to Dave for taking part in this podcast and for being so open for the Gemini Way, episode 1. So where did it all begin? What's your background?
Well, I was born in 1970, so it was a long time ago now, in a little village called Lower Gornal, near to Dudley, so back of nowhere. I was the youngest of 3 children, so I had 2 elder sisters, mum and dad, obviously. My dad was a vehicle repairer. My mum was an accounts clerk. So I always had a love for cars from a very, very early age. Because my dad was hell-bent on everything to do with cars. So that love was there from the very early days. Went to school in Lower Gornal. My mum and dad unfortunately split up when I was 9. So dad left and I stayed with my mum and my 2 sisters. So I didn't see my dad for a few years. And became the man of the house quite early on, I suppose, in my life. Ended up doing a lot of DIY, a lot of fixing, a lot of things around the house, and found I was really practical. So I always had that practical ability, very more unruly at school. So my thoughts always were, career-wise, that I would somewhere down the line work with cars, and that took me really all the way through school, childhood. I did a lot of running at school. I would say, quite a good runner, especially cross-country, long-distance running was my bag, which I loved, and that's probably the lessons I look forward to most at school. It was double PE was my favourite lesson. So I sort of lived my life through PE. My mum didn't have to sort of lose the house was really important to me when I was young, growing up. Tinkered about with push bikes and motorbikes all the way up to 17. When I left school, I thought that was it. I'm not going anywhere near a school or college ever again. I'd done my bit. And then I ended up needing a job. Obviously, my dad knew a large repairer in Wolverhampton and got me an interview there. And I went there. They didn't like apprentices. They'd never taken an apprentice on. It was a really, really big shop. Never taken an apprentice on. They didn't want an apprentice, but because my dad knew them, they gave me an opportunity. But they said I'd got to go to college 1 day a week and block release for 5 or 6 weeks of the year. To doing that sort of thing, but because it was car orientated, I would obviously give it a go, and I'd always do my best in everything I've ever done. I've always tried my very, very best, regardless, and I don't give up ever on anything. So I took the apprenticeship, YTS scheme, £27 a week. Had no way of getting there once I got the job as well. It was 11 miles from the house. So I ran a couple of times. I rode my push bike quite a lot until I could afford a motorbike, and then got a motorbike and carried on until I passed my car test there. So I was their only apprentice, as I say. So it was quite a daunting experience going into a workshop like that as the only apprentice. Most people were in their 40s, 50s. So that was quite an interesting challenge. And then going to college. I thought I was going to hate it, but I didn't. I really enjoyed it. So that was completely different experience to going to school. So when we have apprentices now, I know that feeling that they all have when they start their journey.
So why accident repair then if you loved cars, and why just not the automotive industry?
My dad, it was all really because of my dad working on cars. He used to come home in exotic cars, Lotuses, Porsches, that they were repairing, which was amazing, for him to drive down the street and the kids in the street to see these amazing cars in the 70s going down the street. I really, really wanted to understand cars and work on cars. I knew that's where my passion lay.
So you've stayed within the accident repair industry pretty much since the beginning then, since you started your apprenticeship?
Yeah, since I was 17. Once I went in as an apprentice, I never tried anything else. I've only really had 2 jobs in my whole career. I'm a long stayer at everything I've done. And I thought I would be an apprentice, a panel beater, sorry, not an apprentice, forever. Panel beater forever. I never had any other aspirations at that point, but to be the very best panel beater I could be.
You completed your apprenticeship, and then what next?
Yeah, I completed that and stayed on the shop floor for 7 years. So panel beating, stripping, fitting cars, prepping, painting, doing everything in the workshop at that point. And then I see this as a lucky point for me. I broke my wrist playing football. Came back to work, couldn't work obviously with one arm as a panel beater, and begged my boss at the time that I needed to work. I needed to work. How could I do something else in the shop? There was nothing in the shop I could do. But as luck would have it, the parts manager was about to go on holiday on a cruise. And he said, well, he's going to be off for 6 weeks. How long's the plaster going to be on? I said, 6 weeks. He said, OK, you can go into parts. So I went into the parts department. The computer was MS-DOS, which most young people wouldn't have a clue what that is, but it means you've got no mouse on the table. So really old-fashioned computer they were using. And because I was young, I think everyone thought I knew what computers were, but obviously there wasn't even one when I was at school. So it was all new to me. I stayed in the parts department for the 6 weeks. My arm went back in plaster for another 6 weeks. So I ended up staying in the front office then. My boss asked me to start estimating, which was handwritten at the time, but a new computer had come out called Audatex, which is obviously our main system now. That came out early 90s. I was asked to go on a training course. And once I'd been trained on it, there was never any going back on the shop floor. That was the catalyst then. And I knew it at the time. I knew that was the next opportunity. And I enjoyed the front end of the business so much, I didn't want to go back to panel beating. So I locked my toolbox up, covered it up, never went back on the shop floor, and did everything then from workshop control, driving the recovery truck, valeting, the front admin reception duties. I learnt it all at that business, which really put me in a brilliant position then for the future. And then Andy and Tim from Gemini contacted me one Sunday morning and said, you need to come and have an interview and come and work for us.
So when you joined Gemini, this is the original Gemini as it's known, can you just explain what the difference is between the original Gemini and obviously Gemini of today?
Yeah, I'd like to think there's still some parts of the old Gemini with us. Going and working for Andy and Tim in 1998, they only had one site, but they had huge aspirations to grow that business. Identical twin brothers, amazing to work for identical twin brothers, both entrepreneurial, both very different in their work ethic and how they work. One was financial, one was operational. Models really inspired you to be better, and they wanted to be the best, and they talked about things they were going to do in the next few weeks, months, years. And it was a plan. You could see the vision, and everyone believed in that vision. They had a lovely, lovely family business that everyone who worked there wanted to stay, wanted to work as hard as they could, and there would always be opportunities with Andy and Tim. And there was for lots and lots of people. Lots of people did really well, and they grew that one site to 12 sites from 1998 to 2005, and then it was sold to Nationwide in 2005.
So Gemini, the new Gemini Accident Repair Group, then started off in 2008. You joined. Where did we go from there?
Well, in the gap from 2005 to 2008, myself and Tim worked for Nationwide Crash Repair Centres, who purchased it, which was another brilliant learning experience. A big PLC, very different to the family business that Tim and Andy ran. And we stayed in there for 3 years. Gemini, the name, was purchased by Nationwide, so we couldn't use the name again or start up in business for 3 years. Tim and Andy really had finished with the business and didn't want to do it again anyway, but I really did. So I kept in communication with Tim all the way through those 3 years, and 3 years to the started the new business, the new Gemini, in July 2008.
And this is where you then started as managing director.
Yes. So, as I say, Tim and Andy had gone to Australia. Tim didn't want to play a part in the business anymore in terms of operational day-to-day stuff. So I became the managing director of the business, and we ran with one site for the first sort of 6 months, and then we bought another site in 2008. So by the end of 2010, we had 3 sites. And again, didn't think it was going to, become anything much bigger than that, really. But we had aspirations to not be a traditional body shop anymore. The original Gemini was a brilliant business, very traditional ran operation in terms of how you repair a car. With what I'd learnt from Gemini the first time round and Nationwide, I could see what I wanted for this business. And it wasn't that traditional, normal, run-of-the-mill way of repairing a car. So we needed a new vision, a new opportunity, which I hadn't got in 2008. That I stumbled across that in 2009 when I saw someone speak at a conference. Equipment, robotic equipment for painting vehicles. And all those ideas span from 2009 there, where we would create a completely different blueprint for this Gemini, and that's what we've run from that Bible from 2009 to where we are today in that same process. So
then in 2017, we fast forward a few years, Gemini grows to be how many sites in 2017?
19-20 sites.
19-20 sites, and this is when the apprenticeship programme begins. This is something that has it's grown massively over the years. I believe we're sitting at over 100 apprentices now that we've enrolled since 2017. Where did that passion come from to start apprenticeships within this industry?
Yeah, in late 2016, I met up with 2 guys, Chris Oliver and Bob Linwood, and they had an idea to form a charity. Unfortunately, Bob had lost his son in a car accident, and he had started a small charity for his son, and this sort of enveloped into this charity to help young people into this industry. Bob was from this industry. 6 other people didn't know what it was all about or where it was going to go. Had the conversation with them, listened to them, was really inspired by Bob's story. And I sat there and thought, we've got a big business of 18, 19, 20 sites at the time, a lot of staff, no apprentices whatsoever, no apprentice scheme. We'd purchased in 2016, we'd purchased Auto Restore, which was 9 body shops, with a guy, John Henderson, who worked there, who was their apprentice and training manager. And I thought maybe this is a perfect opportunity for him to join with Auto Raise, the charity, and bring apprentices into our business. And Gemini were doing well in terms at that time, so I didn't feel we needed to do anything else. But just the inspirational story of Bob, and the thought that I was once an apprentice and someone gave me an opportunity when I know that big site I went to, they didn't want to take apprentices on. And I thought there must be hundreds of young people who want to come into this industry and there is no opportunity for them now. So from that day on, I thought, and I actually said that day, I said, we're going to take apprentices on every site, but we're going to take 2 in every site, because I didn't want the feeling like I had as one apprentice in that sort of world. I wanted them to come in like Noah's Ark, 2 by 2 in every site. And that's what we were going to do. And that was the catalyst really for us and for AutoRaise. It sort of launched the charity and launched us on this plan then for having apprentices.
On the apprenticeship focus, Dave, obviously Gemini have been massive in award wins yourself. You've won Apprentice Champion of the Year for Nottingham College. And even if we take to LinkedIn for a moment, you will see many comments from industry colleagues, peers, industry leaders that are stating you are paving the pathway for apprentices and the future of this industry. I'll just read some of them out to you. So, always seen Gemini Accident Repair Centres as one of the top companies in the apprenticeship space, well deserved. Mike Golding, Network Manager at LV, has said, congratulations, Dave. You and Gemini have led the way for this industry, for apprentices and embracing the next generation of talent, well deserved. Great work, Dave, investing the time to build a great pool of talent to protect the future of this highly technical industry, love it. A well-deserved acknowledgement of the time, effort and resources you put into the apprenticeship arenas for this industry. Well done, Dave. So I think it's safe to say the apprenticeship realm, you really have done great things for. To apprentices or those that are looking for their sort of next step in their career, what would that be?
I think most of the compliments, I mean, it's really nice and they mention my name, but it is a team, massive team effort at Gemini, and John Henderson and his team are the guys who deliver all that. Our vision was to have 2 by 2, and that's what we've done. Apprenticeships, it's become more viable again now. The government have managed to put the levy in place, and a big business like ours the levy would be spent if we didn't spend it. So we need to spend that levy money. We need to utilise our money. And it's more about encouraging other repairers in the industry to do the same. So it's not a Gemini thing as such. We don't want the carte blanche, of apprenticeships. We run the best apprenticeship programme, 100%. But we share it with everyone. We want everyone else to be the same. We don't want to be the best at this in that respect. We want everyone to share a part of this. But as a young person leaving school, unfortunately, our industry has got not the greatest reputation just because of what is portrayed on TV. They're mechanical garages, but it's very confusing to people, and they see mechanics as the dirty sort of side of people go there who haven't done very well at school, which isn't the case at all. And most of our sites are clinical in how they look. And the amount of investment in equipment and technology now, the last few years on vehicles has gone through the roof. So you need to be intelligent to come into this industry on that shop floor basis. We need those youthful people. So to young people, schools especially, we've gone into a lot of schools and tried to tell the teachers and the career advisors what this industry is all about, because there's a misconception at school, which obviously runs alongside the young people who are finishing their exams, that they don't take this as a career path. And it's a brilliant career path, and it doesn't just stop on the shop floor. I was lucky and went through all the areas of the body shop and onto something else. Lots of people who've been apprentices in this arena have gone on to do other things inside this industry. There's insurers, there's paint suppliers, there's all sorts of other areas you can go off into. So it's a brilliant career, and it's a well-paid career. It's not a cheap labour industry. So I would, tell any young people, any school or college to send young people into this industry.
No, absolutely. I think even myself, 2 years ago I joined. I'm not from this industry. You have an idea in your head, an image of what a body shop is. And I was amazed. You come forward and you see, how clean it looks, and all the white walls, whitewashed floors. It's not what you expect, for sure. In terms of the apprenticeships then that we offer, obviously you're living proof that you can grow into other opportunities, other roles. You've been an operations manager, now managing director. What would you say to those apprentices that are now finishing their apprenticeships? Obviously, we offer them positions, whether that be a multi-skilled technician or a vehicle damage assessor. But what other opportunities are there available to them?
Well, with apprenticeships, it was never guaranteed that someone, even if they qualified, they would have a job at the end of it. But with us, it is guaranteed. We want them to stay. Someone said to me once, train people and they might leave. If you don't train them, they might stay. That's a scarier prospect, I think. So we like to train them. We want them to stay. So all the elements of our apprenticeship scheme are to maintain that once they be brilliant in one area like paint or panel or MET. They may specialise slightly in that, and we'll try and adapt that into their everyday life going forward. And some will want to stay on the shop floor forever, which is absolutely fine. Some will want to do other things, and where we've grown the next opportunities now is for the VDA estimating programme. So some of the apprentices who've qualified have gone into that side of the business. And also, I always felt when I qualified, in one site you may be seen as the younger person who is newly qualified. We like to give opportunities to move to other sites. So if they can move to a sister site down the road, half an hour away, as a qualified person, that's also nice. And also they become mentors. So our next batch of apprentices coming through, they will be the mentors for the next generation coming through, because they've just qualified, so they understand what the next people are going to go through, and they can help mentor them along the journey as well.
Dave, you referred earlier to your love of cars. You got a real passion for cars from your dad. What was your first car?
My first car was a VW Beetle, which I've still got today.
Wow. So
it's older than me, which is hard to imagine, but it is. Still in brilliant condition. I still use it regular. My dad was mad on Volkswagen Beetles, so I grew up around Volkswagen Beetles and had a massive, love for them. I've had 20 plus over the years. I've always kept the first ones, left-hand drive, hill climb with it, still today. It's been about 5 or 6 different colours over the years, but it's still, as I say, in really good condition. I'll never be selling it. It's not in 1986, passed my test, and then I used that car for 10 years easily every day, and hill climbed it on a weekend as well. So that's where it all began.
And is it worth asking me what your favourite car is, or have you already said it?
No, Porsche 911 is my favourite car.
Okay,
so
bit different.
Without the Beetle, the Porsche would never have been made. So I always think that it's pretty a sister.
Dave, you inspire others. You are a leader. You oversee over 700 staff at Gemini. Do you enjoy the role, the responsibility? Do you relish in that position?
Yeah, I love it. Everything I've ever done, I've always tried my very best. And I think common sense, personality, attitude gets you a long way in life. When I interview anyone, I always look for those traits rather than what qualifications have you got. My dad stayed on the shop floor all his life, and that was absolutely fine. He was happy doing that. And I would have been, probably, but for that broken arm. It gave me different opportunities. I didn't realise ability, and everything I went into, I wanted to learn more and more and more. And I think because I went in every area of a body shop, in the workshop and in the front office, and I learnt it all, that no one was ever going to pull any wool over my eyes after that. And once I got to that position, that's usually when you become the manager of a site, which happened to me at Gemini. And then from Andy and Tim's experiences and the opportunities they gave me to look over multiple sites and put processes in from the one site that we had into others, it just grew. The position just grew and grew. And then finally, I think after the sale of Gemini and working for Nationwide for 3 years in a big PLC and learning a lot there, starting my own business felt exciting. And being the managing director, don't forget when we started, didn't start with 700 people. You know, you have to adapt as you go along. So, and in this industry as well, there's a lot of body shop groups that are circa 10 sites. And it's very difficult to get past that hurdle. There's hurdles all the way along, but up to 10 sites, it's quite manageable and it all feels quite nice. When you go over 10 sites, then more challenges come. But then when you reach a certain point, it seems to become easier and easier. So we found the harder we work, the luckier we get. So me and Phil have pushed and pushed and pushed and grown the business and felt very comfortable. After we went over 20 sites, it doesn't matter what number we get to now. It doesn't seem any harder than it did. It was probably harder when we had 2 or 3 sites in reality to where it is now. But I never saw myself in this position. I never aspired to be in this position. I've ended up in this position. I'm very grateful for all the opportunities people have given me and the people I've met along the way, the role models I've had, good and bad, and what I've learned from every manager who's ever people. Now I want to treat our staff. That's all in my brain somewhere, and I adapt that as I go along. But I don't feel any different to I did when I was panel beating on the shop floor. Still feel exactly the same, and I think because I enjoyed every position I've ever had, I would happily do any of those roles. Estimating, I still love estimating, still love the thought of it and getting involved in it now. And I think still being involved in everything I can be in the business, even though it's huge now and it's hard to know everybody's name, which is a shame. You know, I want to, but it's hard remembering all those names in your head now. You know, it still wants to remain a family business, and that feel, as long as we possibly can, as big as we possibly can, I want it to stay like that.
And you spoke then about role models. So who are they?
I guess I've had a few role models along the way. I mean, my first boss at Lex was a very hard man, autocratic. He ruled by fear. He had a squeaky door from the office into the workshop, so when that door squeaked, everyone ran and stayed on the job there, stopped talking. He ran it in a very different way to how I would have ever managed anyone, but it was so successful for him. And it worked. But I think that type of management maybe has a time and a place for it. But I learned a lot from him. He gave me lots and lots of opportunities and was very harsh on me. Even when I felt I'd done well, he was harsh. But I learned from him, and I respected him massively, and I still do today. He was a very, very successful body shop manager of a very big site. Obviously, Tim has been a massive role. Nice man, very kind, very generous, entrepreneurial, really thinks and has a vision and a plan, which I love. He introduced me into all sorts of motivational speakers and things we used to podcasts and things we used to listen to back in the original Gemini days, which were very motivational and positive. Everything was positive with him, which is it's lovely to be surrounded by positive people, and there was never any negativity. Massive role model. And my dad was a big my mum, my dad for different reasons. My dad was obviously a huge role model to me. He's a brilliant driver. He used to rally, hill climb. I aspired to be the same. I really wanted to be like my dad all the way through his life. He was brilliant as a panel beater. And mechanically I didn't really do anything at work, but mechanically at home I did lots of mechanical work, which my dad taught me everything. I've had all the tools he made and used, and that I've inherited his old car since he passed away. He was a brilliant role model, and not just for the work we did, but as a person, he was an amazing person. He was very interested in people and very interesting to talk. So he had a lovely way about him, very nice, calm man, very, very kind. Some of the things he did when we were kids, I still think about him in my brain today, what a nice man he was. So he was a massive role model in my life.
Dave, in support of World Mental Health Day then and Work Well Fest, we're going to look at what's your other passions outside of work. So I know that you've run 5 marathons, you're a big runner, you've got a big run at the end of the year, which is in Athens in Greece. Do you want to talk to us about that to the listeners and where this passion comes from?
Yeah, sure. I ran at school, fairly decent cross-country runner and mile. Always ran. I think we didn't have a car at home once my dad left, so we had to walk everywhere or run everywhere, and I hated walking, so I thought I'd prefer to run. So I ran all through my school life and carried on, to my mid-20s. I had a bit of a break then for no reason, just family life took over, I think. I got back into break from it. But when I was a kid at school, age 14, I came across a story of a young chap in Canada called Terry Fox, and he was 18. He had cancer in his leg, and they amputated his leg right to his hip, and he had a wooden leg fitted, and he wanted to inspire others and get the word about cancer out there. So he decided to run across the length of Canada. So he dipped his leg in the ocean in the one side and just set off. No real plan. He was just getting up every day and ran. He was 21 when it finished. He ran for 143 days, over 3,000 miles. Finished, the cancer had gone to his lungs, and he died, unfortunately. But that I heard that story at school, and then in the local town to me, a 10-mile run was formed in 1984 called the Terry Fox Run, and it was 10 miles, and it wasn't an easy route. It was all on road. I was probably too young, in all fairness, to attend. They probably wouldn't allow you nowadays, but anyway, I did it. I ran well. It hurt a lot. And I did that for 4 or 5 years till it stopped. Unfortunately, it ran out of enough people to sort of enter it. There was 1,000 people in it that first year I ran it, and I had a sponsorship form in 1984. Went around all the streets, all my family, people at school, etc. Raised £800 sponsorship money. I remember the feeling it gave me after, the pain, how much it hurt. But I thought how much that lad must have hurt doing that run. And for me to raise £800 in 1984 was quite a big sum of money. I was the biggest fundraiser of the event. And I just thought, I like this. I really, one, I love running anyway. 2, if I can do something good with it, that's what I wanted to do. So let's say I did that for a few years, then life just took over, really busy with work and entered the London Marathon, got into the ballot and said, will you do it with me? And I'd never done a marathon. I'd run a few half marathons back in my 20s. So started again. I thought I was still 20 when I started, and that was painful. But got through it. Did the marathon in London 2016. Not my finest hour, I must admit, but it was a time. I put a time in the books, and then did it 2017, 2019, 2022. My best time 3 hours 27 in 2019. I was really pleased with. I think that's about where I am at my peak. So I just carried on doing it. Every year I've raised money for a different charity. I did it for a hospice the first year. I did it for leukemia in 2019 because I lost my sister when she was 31 to leukemia. So I did it for leukemia then, and then I did it for prostate cancer after my dad passed in 2022. And I've raised £7-8 grand each time. On those marathons, and it's been a brilliant experience. I love it. I did Manchester in April, and then I've got into this Greek marathon, which is the original, where it all began, from the city of Marathon to run into Athens in November. I don't know if I'm looking forward to it or not. And I'm in the full Greek outfit as well, so make it a bit more interesting for me this time round.
I look forward to seeing that one. And in terms of the charity that you're going to raise money for the Greek marathon, who is that and why?
So that's going to be the Ben charity. So it's the automotive industry charity. They've been brilliant. They were like the best unknown charity to me in the industry, although lots of people know them and their benefits. And we've had meetings with them here. I think they're a fabulous charity. We're going to do the Gemini hike, aren't we, in October, up Snowdon for them as well. I think what they do for the industry is brilliant. There's some money, so that's what I'm doing it for.
Absolutely. We wish you all the best for the marathon in November. And you refer then to Gemini Hike. So once this podcast goes live, we will have completed Gemini Hike, but it's great that you've got colleagues on board. We've got, I think it's about 25 people from Gemini that will be joining you for the hike up Snowdon, raising money for Ben. In terms of figures for what we've raised within the last 12 months for Ben and Autoraise alone with your backing, it was 25,000 with Autoraise, and I think we're about 7k on track for the Ben charity as well, which is brilliant. So well done.
Brilliant. Yeah.
So Dave, do you believe running helps with mental health?
Certainly it does for me. I think it's a great time. Running's cheap. You don't need to have membership to the gym. You don't have to have any equipment. You can put a nice pair of trainers on and go, and you can go whenever it suits you. That's what I think is brilliant about running in the rain, running in the snow, whatever it is. But to go out, for me personally, I go early morning as the sun's rising. I feel at my best at that time in the morning. I've got no thoughts, the inspirational thoughts, any problems I've got, I probably think them all through as I'm going along. Or you can have 99 problems and just go for a run and just ignore them all for an hour. It depends what you want to do. But I really find I feel amazing when I come back, have a shower, have a nice breakfast, go to work, and I just feel amazing. It's a great way to start the day. And you're ready and prepared for what's coming in the day. So for me, it's a brilliant release.
To end the podcast, do you have any inspirational quotes or stories to share with the listeners?
I have one.
Okay.
Did you know it's impossible for a bumblebee to fly?
No.
Its wings are too small for its body. But the bumblebees still fly because no one told them.
Thanks, Dave. That's been great to have you on episode 1 of the Gemini Way. Really enjoyed talking to you today, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you for listening to the Gemini Way, episode 1, and we'll be back soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you. Did you enjoy it? Yeah. Thank you. It was very good.